How can I get the same SSID for multiple access points? I need to upgrade my existing wireless infrastructure, and this time I want 2 access points to cover my house, since I get blind spots no matter what with a single app. I have physical cabling to my central network available for both access points. I would really like these two to interoperate seamlessly as a single SSID. How do I do this? What are the features that the new access points I'm buying would need to support?
Multi-app roaming network background. There is no magic to making multiple app roaming 802.11 networks work. Wireless clients just assume that all APs with the same SSID are configured similarly, and are all just different points of access to the same underlying wired network. A client will scan all channels looking for APs publishing the SSID at once, and will pick whichever one suits its needs best. Usually that means whichever one shows the highest signal strength. Once on the network, clients stay with the same app as long as it is meeting the client's needs, i.e. as long as its signal strength is above a good enough threshold. If the client later thinks it could be better off with another app on that network, it will do periodic scans of all channels looking for other APs publishing that SSID. If a scan turns up a candidate app that is enough better than the app it is currently on, it will automatically roam to the other app, usually without so much as a missed frame. One roaming caveat: as another commenter pointed out, there are definitely poorly engineered clients out there with poor roaming algorithms or thresholds, which don't actually roam when they should, and thus end up being too sticky, staying on the first app they joined well after they could have been getting better performance and reliability with another app that they are now closer to. Sometimes it helps to force the client's Wi-Fi interface to rejoin the network when you notice that a client has stuck to the wrong app. If you have a lot of these buggy clients, then using the same SSID for multiple APs might not work well for you. You might want to use different SSIDs so you can more easily monitor and control which app your client is associated to. Assuming both APs are configured similarly and are connected to the same underlying network, roaming is seamless and invisible to the user, except nerds like me who run tools to watch for these things. Roaming events are invisible to applications using the network, although some low-level parts of the network stack might be notified of the event, so that, for example, your DHCP client can double-check that this new app really is connected to the same network, so it can be sure your DHCP lease is still valid on this network. Some other users' answers and comments on this question erroneously suggested that wireless protocols or features like wireless relay or WDS might be needed for roaming, but that is absolutely incorrect. Those features are just ways to replace a wired Ethernet backhaul with a wireless one. For the sake of completeness, I should mention that there is a set of technologies, some proprietary, some standardized in IEEE 800 and 2.11f, known generally as Inter-Access Point Protocol. IAP is a method by which generally enterprise-class APs can communicate with each other over the backhaul to optimize client roaming. But that's just an optimization, not a prerequisite for roaming. Roaming works well enough on networks both small and large without any IAP going on. Configuration suggestions: give both APs the same network name, SSID, the same security type, WPA2PSK recommended, and the same wireless security passphrase. Many clients assume that these kinds of settings will be the same across all APs with the same SSID. Since you already have the cabling in place, use wired Ethernet as your backhaul. This saves your wireless bandwidth for your portable/mobile devices that actually need it, instead of wasting it on stationary devices like APS that could reasonably be cabled up. If you have another device on the network, such as a broadband home gateway, providing NAT and DHCP service, then put both APS in bridge mode, turn off NAT and DHCP service. You generally only want one box on your network acting as a NAT gateway or serving DHCP. If you don't already have another device on your network doing NAT and DHCP, and you need those services, then you can have one of your APS do it. Have the more upstream app, the one that's closer, topologically to your broadband modem, do NAT and DHCP, and make sure that the wired Ethernet connection to the other app comes from the first app's LAN port. Also make sure that the downstream app is in bridge mode. I call this out because I have seen people make the mistake of leaving NAT and DHCP enabled on both of their APS, and I have seen clients that are not smart enough to realize that, say, the 192.100 and 68.1.x/24 network they are now is not the same 192.100 and 68.1.x/24 network they were on a moment ago in the other room. I have also seen users get confused in the situation where two laptops in the same house had 192.168.1.x addresses, but could not ping each other because they were really on two separate IP networks behind two separate NATs. Channel is one key setting you do want to vary from app to app in a roaming, multiple app, 802.11 network. To maximize bandwidth, leave your APS to automatically select the channel to use, or you can manually pick different, non-overlapping, and hopefully unoccupied channels to use. You don't want transmissions to slash from one app to compete for bandwidth with transmissions to slash from the other app. Additional considerations. The rest of this answer is just a bunch of general how to maximize your home 802.11 network bandwidth tips, not specific to your question of two APS with the same SSID. Consider taking this opportunity to fully modernize. If you are already buying a new app and taking the time to reconfigure things, I recommend using this opportunity to replace your existing app as well, by buying two of the latest APS that support simultaneous dual-band 802.11 acres technology. That way you can support both the 2.4 GHz band for older clients that are 2.4 GHz only, as well as the less busy 5 GHz band for more bandwidth. It is becoming a best practice to set your 2.4 GHz 800 and 2.11n radio to 20 MHz HD20 channels so that it leaves some of the band free for things like Bluetooth to use. This limits your 800 and 2.11n transmission rate in the 2.4 GHz band to 130 MB/s instead of 300 MB/s, but allows other non-800 and 2.11 2.4 GHz devices to still work okay. In 5 GHz, where there are many more channels available and they are all generally much less busy, you are encouraged to use 80 MHz VHT80 channels to get maximum throughput. Apple's latest 2013 Airport Extreme and Time Capsule are simultaneous dual-band 800 and 2.11 acres, and they also support 3 spatial stream, aka 3x3, 3SS 800 and 2.11 acres, for transmission rates up to 1,300 megabits per second if you have 3 stream 800 and 2.11 acres clients that can do it. All of Apple's Mac products introduced in 2013 or later have 800 and 2.11 acres. The MacBook Airs are only 2SS 867 megabits per second max signaling rate. The iMacs are 2SS on transmit and 3SS on receive, but I believe the Retina MacBook Pros and Mac Pro are 3SS on both transmit and receive. Note that the industry has been slow to roll out good 800 and 2.11 acres APS and clients. A lot of the stuff that came out in 2012 or even early 2013 was often buggy bleeding edge first generation junk. Starting in June 2013, the much more reliable second generation 800 and 2.11 acres stuff started coming out. Besides the Apple products, the Asus RTX 66U is a decent simultaneous dual-band 3SS 800 and 2.11 acres app. If you're stuck with older single-band at a time APS. If you don't need to support any older 2.4 GHz only devices, use the 5 GHz bands since it is generally less busy, and you can use HT40 without starving Bluetooth and other uses. If you're stuck supporting 2.4 GHz only devices with single band at a time APS, be careful of your channel selection. In the 2.4 GHz band, the channels overlap to a great degree. However, channels 1, 6, and 11 don't overlap at all, so those are good choices to pick manually. You could use a Wi-Fi network scanner like Insider, NetStumbler, Istumbler, many more driving tools, etc. to see which channels are in use by other APS visible from where you are. If you suspect you have non-800 and 2.11 2.4 GHz interferers in your area, such as Bluetooth, microwave ovens, and many, but not all, cordless phones, baby monitors, wireless webcams, and wireless room-to-room AV senders, you could go all out and get a spectrum analyzer, like a Metageek WeSpy, to find which channels are the least noisy where you are.
Good article. However, the handover between multiple APS on same SSID often causes problems, as the client will stick with the original app even if the signal is well below the good enough threshold. For example, if you move your laptop from one end of the house to the other, it will not switch simply to the new app when it finds the app with a much stronger signal. Rather, it will stick with the original app until the signal is so weak and erratic, 5 MB, that it can no longer be used. In many cases, the signal may be so weak that the laptop cannot surf the net or communicate with network devices, but laptop will still use original app as it can still see a very weak signal. To fix this requires a manual intervention to force app switch, e.g. repair or reset of wireless connection on laptop. In short, the following statement is questionable. Once on the network, clients stay with the same app as long as it's meeting the client's needs, i.e. as long as its signal strength is above a good enough threshold. If the client later thinks it could be better off with another app on that network, it'll do periodic scans of all channels looking for other APS publishing that SSID. If a scan turns up a candidate app that's enough better than the app it's currently on, it'll automatically roam to the other app, usually without so much as a missed frame.
To make it short, these are the most important things to do. Same SSID, passphrase and security settings on all APS, different channel for each app. Ideally non-overlapping, 1, 6, 11.
If you use something like an Airport Express, it has an option to extend another WDS network. I would assume that other routers have a similar feature accessible through their respective configuration panels. It's difficult to provide a working solution without knowing more about your network setup.
If you want to report the channel, please consider subscribing.